Indeed, but as you can see on the screen, overlay is being initiated as we jump into game number 1. The first set that we're going to take a look at from the qualifiers of Golden League 2, the first major tournament of 2023. It is going to be Sassy on the right side with the Ottomans in red versus Legolas with the Delhi in blue.
Absolutely, and a big deal to try and qualify here. Of course, whoever actually qualifies, we're qualifying into a $70,000 tournament. That's a lot of money. And it is, of course, going to be playing out across a lot of weekends, so you want to make sure that you've carved out time in your schedule to catch all the games. We should definitely see some familiar faces across these qualifiers as we go deeper in, but to kind of open up and talk a little bit about these guys, Legolas hasn't really got much of a history in the competitive, hasn't really proved himself yet. Sassy on the other side, decent player, quite talented, right? Frequently has been, I think almost every season he's been in the top 200 or top 300 leaderboards and has been steadily climbing. Frequently ends up being kind of a practice partner for some of your bigger players and content creators in the scene. And I'm curious to see what he can do on his, I believe, debut here in Golden League.
Indeed, it's the debut of both players, and it's also the debut of the map that we're witnessing over here. It is Canal, brand new for Golden League 2. It's gonna be interesting to see what kind of meta we have here, especially because we're gonna have a large patch just after the qualifiers, so everything that we see over here, you can throw it out of the window after the qualifiers. For the time being, it's gonna be a wall-off attempt by Sassy. He is threatened, or he feels threatened by those Delhi fishing boats that you discussed before.
Exactly. Like, you have to make this play if you're up against the Delhi. And nice interception. I love that detail right there. Legolas is just going to cut across. But it's just going to rush forward. It's quite a funny little wall we got going on here. But it looks like actually Legolas has kept it open on both areas. There's probably 2 or 3 more points where SAS can attempt this. I honestly think he should just back to the right now. Just go far to the right and set up a full wall. Or you could continue this dance and actually just outplay him.
Oh, that's a pain.
I mean, that was actually geniusly played by SAS. It looks like he measured where the maximum distance was that you could walk across. So he put Legolas in a situation where you couldn't just rush south and put a wall down there instead. Nice play.
Yeah, very nice indeed. A little side note on Legolas, because we have heard about Sassy. He's been around AoE for quite a while. The other guy is a lesser known name, but he also has some competitive background. Legolas has been a Hearthstone player for quite a while, now playing AoE 4. He's about 250 on the leaderboard, so pretty good Conqueror 2 player. But right now he's seat 76 against seat 28 Sassy. So on paper, this should be a set for Sassy to take. That being said, don't count out Legolas just yet. We'll have to see how Sassy will be able to assess the problem of those fishing boats, which will give a nice eco boost initially for Legolas.
Yeah, I mean, you know, with a name like Legolas, he should know how to use the archery side of things quite well. But unfortunately for him, with these walls being up, certain archery element that's pretty impactful on this map is denied from him. And you can see already, SAS, yeah, he did go in for the early spearman. He is actually ahead of the curve. Problem is, unlike any other Civ, you can't now harass these shoreline fishing boats because they will fight back.
Yeah, that's the big problem here with the Ottomans. If this was any other civilization, you would be the one threatening the fishing eco, but with those fishing ships being able to shoot arrows, oh, that's gonna be ugly. Sassy losing the scout, and as we just discussed, these spearmen won't be able to do much against the fishing eco either. Not a very flashy start for him so far.
Well, one upside he might have is it looks like Legolas got a forward spawn gold vein, and it might be too far to defend. And remember, you know, although the Delhi can heal, due to the layout of his base, it's going to be a lot of idle time away from getting those vital researchers if he has to pull the scholar.
Yeah, nice little push here with the Spearman, though. That's going to be a little annoying here on the gold mine. Now, Legolas will have enough gold for Feudal Age, so for the time being, he's fine bailing on this. But do keep in mind, you will also need some gold for those initial scholars, and that's where these Spearmen could be annoying.
Yeah, and Legolas, like, he feels paranoid that he needs this wall up. I'm a little bit surprised by it, to be honest with you. I understand when you're further in on the wood line, but right now, that wood line is so close to the TC that you should be protected. And what did I mention about this map? It's a lack of wood in your starting location, and you just spent some of it on a defense that probably isn't even needed.
Yeah, now, looks like we're going with the Tower of Victory over here, so it's gonna be... Oh, look at that.
On the other side, even more impressive, we're getting the Sultani trade network.
Okay, I did not expect to see that, but seems like Sassy feels that Legolas is gonna play a passive game here, or at least a semi-passive game, thinking that he can get away with some trade.
I'm actually really happy to see this. Like, it's not something we've seen in quite a while. Like, you know, occasionally you see someone just casually build one of their full-on water side, but we've seen plenty of people play maps like Boulder Bay and still go for a Madrissa anyway for just like a backup option. But the Sultani Trade Network, you know, it's been a while for those that remember. It's, I believe, 28 gold passive per minute for each trader you've got banked inside, up to 6. When you create the building, you spawn 2 by default. And then, of course, you know, you can actually use them as normal traders if you want. You won't get 28 gold per minute, but if you create a trade route, you'll get plenty more than that. And if you look at the map, you can see north and south side have pretty far away neutral trade posts. So if he reads this right and sees which way Legolas is going, and Legolas will choose north or south because of the nature of the sacred sites, he can sneak trade on the other one.
Yeah, I would think that worst case scenario for him right now is that he at least gets one run with the traders going before there will be any kind of map presence from Legolas. Because he's also towering the fishing boats, so that's gonna be a little annoying to deal with. I think it will be in range, but for the time being, Legolas will just shuffle those fishing ships around. He might need to replace the dock, but this is no big deal.
But hear me out, hear me out. If you're Sassy, you just try to drop a dock now on the most southern area of that bank. Because then you can get an emplacement that covers both of the docks.
Yeah, that would be lovely. By the way, that tower is also somewhat covering one of the sacred sites, so that's a really good tower placement for Sassy.
Yeah, I'd actually love to see Sassy just like move up, build a second outpost near the bank, build it up to like 95% but not complete it, and then build the dock. That way, like, you don't invest the wood, right? You can always get it back. But if your opponent comes in range, you can just tap your hammer, complete it, and then you have a save point. But if he does get a dock down in that area, there's no fishing happening here for Legolas. And, you know, at that stage, what does Legolas really have? You know, he's got nearby berry patch near to his base. He's got limited wood. He won't have the fish. And Sassy will. At that point, the Ottomans get all the options on the table.
Yeah, and there is a dock for Sassy, but for the time being, that's just for fishing, and that's part of the reason why he's actually ahead in eco. Obviously, those traders that are coming in, plus the fishing boats, will equal things out. Spearmen still being a little annoying, but it's not like they're inflicting massive damage. They're actually more like recons at this point, just giving information for Legolas, also denying that gold. And if you take a look at Legolas's eco, that's a concern. He doesn't have a sacred site. He's banking up a bunch of food, but it's not like he can do much with it. He's limited on wood, and he has absolutely no gold to work with.
Yeah, like, if someone just tuned in and saw these spearmen, they're like, terrible investment. He was always going to build archers. Why would you do this? But you have to, like, break down what the spearmen have achieved. They're going to be garrisoning units to the outpost spam as he moves up the embankment. It's also forced that wood investment into the walls by Legolas going full tilt. And on top of that, we did mention the archers. He's been forced to build them. And because Legolas goes archers, naturally, as an Ottoman player, you're going into metas. Typically, it's through passive production, but check this one out. Sassy is actually actively building into stables. It's a very different build to what you're used to seeing with the Ottomans, because typically, the only reason they end up having Sipahi is through the passive production from the military schools.
Yeah, for sure. But I like it from Sassy. He's playing very aggressive, understanding that Legolas doesn't have that much map presence, and he could just deny all sacred sites. And do keep in mind, if Legolas is pinned inside his base, he's going to run out of wood. There's so little at the back of your base, and Legolas is going for a very wood-heavy composition. He has invested into fishing ships, he's going for archers, had to make walls. Look at that, he depleted about 2/3 of that forest already.
And this could be like a 14-minute game at this rate. Like, the problem is, as you mentioned, Legolas is using up his wood, and actually what he's built is counted, right? Like, Sassy going for the Sipahi gives him max flexibility, allows him to shut down any build-up around the sacred sites and also protect his trade. So what do you do if you're Legolas? Well, you know, the option should be to kind of like maybe get some horsemen of your own to chase after the trade. How the hell are you affording stables, right? The archers alone are going to burn that back wood line, but now you're saying you need to build more military production?
This is big. Look at that, KP. The tower actually has a vision inside the stealth forest. Legolas was trying to hide his archers, but Sassy could assess his numbers. This is crazy. Sassy knows fully well that those archers aren't supported by spearmen. There's only 2 spearmen on the battlefield for Legolas. Sassy could take this fight, potentially.
Yeah, I mean, Legolas has more spearmen hidden somewhere behind this, but they're just not in position. And, you know, the one thing that I'm missing from Sass right now is he's not trading. I think he could easily be trading right now. Might feel that he doesn't need the extra gold because what are you really spending it on? But it will allow you to float towards that castle age timing. And I think this might be the point where you should start trading. When you see that Legolas walls himself in like this, he's playing full tilt. He's trying to negotiate for new wood lines, but he's not really coming out. And, well, speaking of that wood that was burning very quickly, this is another heavy investment by Legolas. 250 to build this ram. He's got, like, what, maybe 1.5k left at the back of his base?
Yeah, that's actually a big investment just to get rid of a single tower. And especially considering that his fishing eco is still functional, it has been fired upon by the tower because the fishing ships haven't been reset to the second dock. But still, it's not like that tower or destroying that tower is a life and death matter for him. He's going to get rid of it, but the investment is pretty big.
No. He will at least be able to get through this outpost and re-access the fishing side, but the problem is how much he's revealed. And cheeky from SAS, coming out to poke at the ram. Won't be able to do enough damage, though. We'll just have to retreat away. So we'll forfeit that forward outpost, but keep in mind that SAS has had a fairly more dominant eco on the water side in the meantime, because Legolas has been starved on that backside close to his base. And the thing you got to remember about Canal is actually, as you move away from the center, there's less shoreline fish. It's purposely designed that way to make you come out. And, oh, he deleted the walls. SAS is in. And this is crazy. Legolas hasn't built a single combat ship. Wow. I think this is about to get a lot worse for Legolas. Like, actually, if SAS moves in with the Sipahi on the northern bank, he can just torch the docks. He can get rid of them before they can produce a counter.
Yeah, Legolas felt like he just didn't need any combat ships. He didn't see any naval presence from Sassy. And now there's a Hulk out there that's also going to contribute very heavily in the land battle. And it's going to be Matter buffed archers against Tower of Victory archers. That evens things out. Oh, there's Demo ship, though. You got to be careful if you're Sassy.
Oh, he made the double Imam play as well. So he's got the passive healing on the go. So he'll be able to tank and sustain. And Legolas is kind of, it's like a headless chicken in the middle of the map here, right? Like, these archers are also getting sprayed down by archer ships. Demo ship should at least be able to move out and take out the spring orb, but I think that archer ship is a bigger deal here. Now, SAS has mismicroed a little. He lost the Imams and the meta, but in return, he did take out a decent chunk of Legolas's army. Demo ship is not going to cut it, though. You need two of them if you want to take out the fishing.
Yeah, it's still a beautiful blast, though. Might be enough for that Arrow ship to just finish off what's left. Still, though, as you said, Matter is gone, Imam's gone, and this is actually a pretty formidable force still for Legolas.
Yeah. So what happened here is Sassy became over-invested in protecting the Sipahi. He kind of neglected the meta and the Imams. Remember that those Imams, they cost you a point to spawn, and you can't replace them. You can't get new Imams until Castle Age. So he has actually sacrificed a lot in terms of Vizier points here, and now Legolas actually getting the Spring Ship counter out and still being a Legolas here with the Archer Mass in his favor, gets an opportunity to continue to push deep into SAS's side of the map.
Yeah, now Sassy is just trickling in reinforcements to a battle that seems lost. I feel like he just needs to fall back a little bit and regroup, but by doing so, he's going to forfeit map control, and you can see that Legolas is now turning on the screws with the Delhi, starting to cap the sacred sites, establishing naval presence, and suddenly, Legolas is in a great position to establish a massive lead here in Feudal.
Wait, is he body blocking it? Okay, no, he's prepping to repair, but he needs to be fast about it. We'll just about save the day. Spring Ship stays alive, so that's now 2 in favor of Legolas. He can push back. SAS, man, I think he actually invested way too much in protecting those Sipahi. Like, I hope he's thinking about something behind this. Like, looking at his resources, he hasn't got a tech upcoming. He hasn't been trading. I actually think this is looking a lot better now for Legolas.
Yeah, I wonder what those units moving to the south are. Those are just villagers. Still no traders out there. And the thing is that he had map control for quite a while. He could have gotten away with a couple of trips to that market. He felt like it's a little too dangerous, stuck behind, but now you look at the military count, it's still even, yet map presence is increasing for Legolas. And now that passive gold income is going to start really turning on, if you look at the resource banks, Legolas could start flirting with the idea of Castle Age.
Yeah, it's worrying because I think SAS, like, he had a dominant position and he got over zealous in his assault south side. Like, if he'd actually just skirted the embankment and if he actually stayed in range of his naval ships, I think he could have kept mass over Legolas and taken out the docks. But now I think Legolas is kind of in cruise mode, right? Like, he's capturing sacred sites around the area. You just saw that uncomfortable move by SAS out into the wood line. That's not a move that Legolas has to make, right? He already done that early when he set up the walls with his military south side. So he's set for wood for quite a while. I'm expecting Legolas to probably crack Castle Age in the next 2.5 minutes.
Yeah, he can get away with this because he has set up the walls, and the only angle from which Sassy can really attack is close to the river, and it's gonna be difficult to push through now. A lot of scholars out there to heal. Tower of Victory archers also making a difference with no matter on the Ottoman side, and once again, Sassy's forced to retreat. He simply can't break through anymore, which means that Legolas can stop producing army and start thinking about Castle Age.
And like, if you have to retreat here, you lose the game. That's the design nature of Canal. When you forfeit mid-map control at this stage, your villagers are exposed in that area. Now, that being said, Legolas has jumped the gun a little bit. It's actually kind of funny how this tree line specifically is the downside of both players, but the moment Legolas regroups with this many healers, and the fact that we are playing on the old patch, not the one where combat healing got nerfed, it's almost impossible for SES to take a fight anymore. It's kind of crazy to be 60 minutes in the game and the fishing boat pull is happening now, right? But it's worked wonders here.
Yeah, it's also there to repair those combat ships, don't forget that. And one of the things that Legolas has done masterfully in this game is keep those Buglaws alive. He's barely losing any combat vessels, unlike Sassy, who has lost multiple Hawks in this game already. Big investments those were.
Sassy's about to be out of food. Like, you just noticed that fishing boat pull? He actually gathered the safe fish first, not the dangerous ones. So he needed to be on the central embankment. Now he has to pull to the right side. I'm not even sure he's got any left. Maybe one if he's lucky. Like, watch his food income as it's just going to plummet. In the meantime, he's going to lose access to even dropping off the food. And this combat at the center, it's just a circle jerk of healers right here. Everyone gets a band-aid. And it just feels like 1 or 2 spearmen, and all of a sudden you're going to lose the full cavalry battalion. What does SES have behind this?
Nothing. His fishing eco could be gone in a second. Not a single combat ship out there for him. His army is going to be gone. Now it is 50 military against 33. He's still trying to retake water. He's going to sink one of those Buglaws, but then again, as you said, now his fishing eco is threatened.
Is he?
Oh.
SES actually stopped himself from even using the demo ship that entire fight.
That's so sad.
Oh, God. Honestly, I think someone just needs to, I don't know, slap some peanut butter jelly all over these guys so they can slip through. Like, that was just painful to watch. It's that type of thing you make in a game where, like, if you put one demo ship in all these fishing boats, it's like, they don't know which is real. It's the one on fire, spoiler alert. But he literally couldn't reach. And now, look, he just loses in return on the Springald ship. He's already lost kind of mass and control in the center. He's about to lose the dock. And remember what I said, like, you know, you don't have much in the way of resources back at home. This is also a game where Sassy built the Sultani trade network. He's getting gold, not food at home. So the moment he loses fishing here, I don't really know how you compete.
It gets worse than that. He was making army not from military schools, but actual production buildings. He's paying full price for these units. And if you look at the bottom left, that tells you the story. Double the amount of resources worth of army destroyed by Legolas. 11,000 resources was lost in the form of army for Sassy, just half of it for Legolas. Finally, Sassy moves out for trade. Looks like he's going to get away with this because Legolas is just so focused on the middle.
When did he start this, actually? Because that's quite a lot of traders. I feel like we didn't see the traders moving out for quite a while. Keep in mind, like this is kind of a nice boon. SES is going to get gold, but like the more he keeps trading, the worse the returns get. And he's only getting gold here, right? So he has to move out for the food. If you look just north of that dock he just set up, he's actually got deer gatherings happening. So if this ever gets exposed, like he can't afford to keep pushing these Sipahi. In fact, he's kind of throwing them to the walls right now because Legolas has kind of gone one brain, like silver tier play here. He's like, I'm just going to spam spears. Literally just spears to win the game.
Yeah, it's crazy to think about because Legolas could easily afford to go to Castle. Instead, he wants to finish this game in Feudal Age, just pressing onto this. Yet, Sassy is slowing him down. There's a defensive tower out here. Now there's a new method out there to buff the archers. And do keep in mind, that trade is going to kick in eventually. He still has some hunt to work with. So, Legolas has to be careful over here because there could be a recovery arc here for Sassy still.
It's kind of hilarious to watch how quickly archers now chunk down hulks, right? Ever since they got changed, they don't actually last that long. Like these tiny arrows that should have no effect and just destroying it. But to your point, I agree. Like Legolas needs to crack Castle Age. He needs to actually look forward to just men-at-arms and lancers to end this game. He is at that stage because right now it feels like Legolas is not playing an RTS, he's playing Cookie Clicker. Right? Like he clicks on the archery range and the racks. He's like click, 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 click. He's like got an auto clicker going to do it quick enough, right? And it might eventually win him the game, but he's going to spend like an extra 10 minutes getting there.
He managed to snap down the Matter from the middle, so once again the attack buff is gonna be gone for Sassy. And there is the Castle Age with the compound of the Defender coming in. No surprise in this one, I would say. He has momentum. I would think about a forward Castle in his position.
I mean, it's like a forward compound defender. So, like, usually we see compound defender base, and then we see a forward castle. Like, how forward is forward in this situation, Lidakor? Does he have to be on the right side of the map, like off and out of bounds? It kind of feels like it. And oh no, that's the moment I've been waiting for. Yeah, because Legolas so far has just been kind of headbutting the front, right? He's just been going Falcon punching his way through it. He's never checked the flanks. If he now realizes that what's happening here, do you not start wondering what's happening north side as well? Do you not like send a few horsemen or upcoming lancers in and kill everything?
Yeah, for sure. It might just be because he wants to cap the sacred side to the north. Keep that in mind. He's walling off the southernmost sacred side and he's going to find it.
Sir, these are unguarded. And by the way, Legolas actually did know about this. Look at all the injuries on these poor little traders.
Those are from a wolf, KP. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I was about to say, it's possible it's been a wolf after over like 2 minutes. But that's just kind of warmed them up for the spears now arriving.
Yeah, he's going to find a trade, and look at that. Immediate shift to the north. Now, you gotta be careful. There's a demo here on the crossing. Nice little bait.
Yes. They don't do bonus damage against fishing boats. Come on, let's be real here. Like, you need 2 of them to do anything. The skull.
This could be big.
But wait, it can't be big because 85 damage on a 130 health unit. Everyone just pats each other on the head like nothing happens.
For a moment, you started hoping for a big blast, but then it was like,
It's like the definition of just wearing enough armor that someone can't hurt you, right? It's like, oh no, he killed himself headbutting us. Just rub yourself, like check yourself, like make sure you've like, you know, banged your armor to be solid again. All right, let him try again. Like it's literally every time he's gonna have a demo ship ready, all the scholars would have healed each other for the next demo ship.
Anyways,
so bad these days.
Sassy is going to make it to Castle Age because as much as that trade was threatened, it never really got destroyed. He got enough gold to get to Castle, and at the end of the day, he's still ahead by 10 eco. Now, his position is not to be envied by any means. He's up against multiple sacred sites of the Delhi. Legolas is also going to start picking up relics. In fact, he has 4 on the way home, but once again, Sassy at least lives to see another day, and he can hope for recovery here in Castle. If he manages to wall off the northern side, that trade could get him back in this game.
If he gets it up, because what in Sultani's name is that wall? Like, he's going the full length right now, and Legolas has continued to be tunnel visioned. It's kind of like Legolas, you see that ram being built, he remembers how effective the first one is, and he's like, if I just build another one, I could win the damn game. However, at this stage, I think you've kind of sat on your hands about it a bit too long. Like, at this stage, I actually do quite like SAS's odds. Especially when you consider Legolas has not upgraded his archers at all. So this is actually an even fight right now.
Yeah, this is big. He doesn't have the archers upgrade. On the other side, Sassy has it, and he also has the matter buff. This might be overzealous from Legolas. He's about to lose his army, and suddenly, momentum shifts in the favor of Sassy.
And Sassy, he doesn't even involve the knights. It's like, no, we are chivalrous. Let the peasants fight. And after the peasants are done fighting, like Legolas just lost, what, half his scholars? He still hasn't upgraded his archers. He's now pushing men-at-arms into an Ottoman player. Like, you know, most Ottoman players will naturally transition to crossbows now. I don't really like the way this is going for Legolas.
Yeah, this is looking pretty ugly. Quite frankly, army numbers are technically in the favor of Legolas, but some of that is actually Navy. On land, this is a much more convincing army from Sassy, partly because of that tech advantage.
Well, he did just throw away a lot here, actually, because the archers didn't need to stand their ground like that. So Lidakor, I mean, we've seen a lot here. Now, I think neither of them would be offended if I said neither of these guys are like Marine Lord or Yuda Muslim, right? I think they both know they've got a long way to go. But this has been quite the slobber knocker of 24 minutes of Canal gameplay, to the point that I don't really know how long this one's going to go. Like, if you had to put a number on it, right? And you are basically the roulette table right now, so any number could technically be right. How long do you think this game's going to go for?
I can see it going 40 plus minutes at this point because trenches are being dug, momentum for Legolas is shrinking, yet he still has 4 relics, multiple sacred sites. On the other side, trade is set up for Sassy, so attrition is probably gonna be the deciding factor between these two, and if that's the case, this has to be a long game.
Okay, now I disagree. Because you said that part of your tick in the boxes there, Lidakor, is that Legolas had multiple sacred sites. Okay, he's now
He will have
capturing the second
multiple
one.
sacred sites.
He's
Come
had
on.
that southern one walled off for so long, and it just hasn't been recaptured. It's actually
No one
quite
saw
painful to
that.
watch. It's fine. Yeah, we've been looking at the center. The center where this archer army is being burnt.
Yeah.
Sassy never bothered to upgrade it. He's only now doing it when most of it is dead. He's now transitioning to crossbows. There's a lot kind of lacking it. I think they both kind of caught each other off guard with this back and forth throwing away of armies. And speaking of a throwaway, Legolas.
It's a lovely shot, and he's gonna
Don't
be a
worry,
second
buddy.
one. Ouch.
Hey, man, it's only the crossbows as well, right? Like, there's no biggie, no biggie. Oh, now he turns into Neo. There we go. After he's lost like half of them.
Yeah, both sides are losing armies en masse, I have to say. Every time you see a momentum from one of these players, they become a little overzealous and throw away quite a lot of units.
Oh my god, that's
Oh,
Did you see what was happening there? Like, so the Sipahi moves
Yeah.
faster than the Knight, right? So the
It's body
Sipahi
blocking.
kept running. Yes, the Knight never attacked anything. It's like an overly eager kid, right? It's like you got this Chadley guy with like who could like bench 200, and you got this kid. The kid's faster. He's like, let me out. It's like Scrappy Doo and Scooby Doo in the guy. It's oh god, I hate it when it happens. So
nice.
where's Sassy's army right now?
Well, I guess in a production queue, if anywhere, because it's definitely not on the
guess-
playing field.
I guess in heaven, if you believe in that sort of place, maybe. Or hell, or like 6 feet under at
both.
least, because they keep disappearing. Yes, that's right. Sassy's army is hiding underground, okay? They're with the lizard people now. They probably won't come back in time to win this game, though, because Sassy's kind of ran out of food.
That's ugly indeed. And there is no farm transition over here. Berries are gone, hunt is gone, fish is gone, and he's just struggling for food. And now his trade is actually being threatened. Forward keep coming in for Legolas. He doesn't want this game to go 40 minutes. He doesn't want me to be right. He just wants to finish it right here, and I think he can.
Legolas is like, well, I could go to all of the hoo-ha of stopping the trade somewhere in between. But you know what will stop him trade? I just cut him off at his starting point entirely. Although Legolas does have to remember that the villagers are attacking right now and not... It's okay. There we go. They're going to build now. So that's going to go up. At that stage, like, I think probably Sassy just calls it. If he doesn't stop this going up, he has nothing. He
Yeah,
kind
but
of
how
already
do you
has
stop
nothing.
this, though?
So... What's less than nothing? Oh, a point on the ball for your opponent.
There it is. Indeed, Legolas takes it, and at the end of the day, you have to go back to that one fight where Sassy, he just wasn't able to take that engagement because of such healing power being there for Legolas, and then from that point on, it was just daily momentum. There wasn't really a massive eco discrepancy between the two players, but it was more about the efficiency of Legolas, the passive gold income coming in from that one sacred site he had, then of course the relics. And if you were to go back to the game, you would see the value destroyed by Legolas was much higher. He was able to keep his ships alive for a lot longer than Sassy was able to, and in the end, it just kind of ground down Sassy to a point where he wasn't able to access food anymore.
I actually think that Sass was in a pretty good position to win this game until that first big fight in the center. Like, it looked like he was over-focused on keeping his Sipahi alive, and he lost the more critical underlying element. His archer line, his healers, and his meta. From that point on, like, this is pretty cruise mode. I think at that stage, Legolas identified that his kind of slower approach to this game was going to win out, and it just was going to be a grind down. You know, it's crazy as well, because I think SAS kind of got sucked into the whirlpool that was that central combat, and always kind of renewing the assault to the point that he didn't find a way of setting up a late game economy. He starts to trade probably too late. Like, most players would have spotted that out. It was actually quite fortunate for him that Legolas didn't shut it down sooner. Just kind of a wacky game, like it's good though, right? Like, like I said, there's probably like some AoE 4 connoisseurs right now. They're sitting there with I haven't got a wine glass, this will do. And they're like, putain, I could do better. Right? But in fairness, we did get a back and forth affair. And I think we are going to get a back and forth series because I think this is far from over.
Yeah, it is far from over. It was a very much back and forth game. In the end, Legolas takes it, which takes us to the home map of Sassy. That is going to be Golden Heights. Let's see the civilizations. We'll have those revealed in a second. What do you reckon? Are we going to see Malians here? Maybe Malians versus Mongols? Dare I say Mongol mirrors? What's going to be the approach taken by these players over here when it comes to civs?
HRE versus Mongols.
Interesting.
Probably Legolas. Given his playstyle in that last game, I think he's probably more of an HRE player. And SAS probably goes Mongols. Actually, I don't know if Sassy plays much Mongols. Like, I think I've occasionally seen it. I'm not sure. I mean, everyone has to play Mongols, right? Like, it doesn't matter what year it is in AoE4's history. If you don't know how to play Mongols, like, get out competitive, you scrub. So I think for the playstyles, I could see that being the way they lean. Like, SAS was very aggressive in that game, and it didn't work out. But I think he probably wants to lean into that playstyle still. So Mongols makes a lot of sense in that regard. Legolas on the other side, like it's turtley type civs. Like maybe we see something wacky like English here, probably not. But HRE as a backup is good, especially if you just target that Burgrave rush timing and just flood the field.
Oh, by the way, idea with the Burgrave.
We got a bunch of subs coming through again. Look at you guys go. We were 120 before we started the match. Now we're 165. I know it's QWERTY coming through with a bunch of subs as well as 3313. Keep them coming in. We appreciate what you do and we want to give them return, which is why, week after week, we are going to be here shoveling AoE4 content down your throat. And if you don't want to have ads that we really don't get paid well for from Twitch shoved down your throat instead, the best way to do it is to be subbed to this channel. Not to mention all of the emotes you get access to and the fact that Pesty, although you won't hear him, every time someone subs, he makes one of those kind of like ooh senpai anime character noises and says your name. So it's like so for example, Boston Boy just came as like, so Boston Boy, all right, like you can't see him do it. And then he's like,
I've never seen him do that. Why isn't he showing that to us?
He accidentally stayed in the Discord call once, and I heard him do it.
I want to see him do it, though. We need a LAN so that we can see him do it.
That's the goal. Vegas LAN, and Pesty's on stage like, welcome to the EGCTV Vegas Invitational.
All right, it ain't Vegas, but we do have game number 2 out here. Golden Heights, and there is Mongols. Against it, though, is English from Legolas. Are you surprised about this? Or are we going to have something really fun here? Or both, potentially.
I think it's going to be fun, but like I'm just going to like pop the call. I kind of call it, right? Like the play styles make sense. SAS wants to be the aggressor. Mongols is really good here. I actually rate it highly. English on the other side, I said HRE, and then I did say English is the backup option because I think Legolas enjoys being the defender. Cool thing for him is this map, in some ways, is actually a lot easier to defend than the last one, right? Because you have 2 wood lines, one behind you, one towards your opponent's base. And the English, although you haven't got much gold safely at home, they don't need much to get to like those critical timings in towards Castle Age, at which stage they should have some presence on the map. I think it's going to be on SAS to be the aggressor. Would love to see him kind of pivot for some early pushes into like an outpost drop. One thing to keep in mind, though, is you can't outpost rush before Feudal Age, right? Because the English will build a council hall and get lombos. That also means you can't go for the Magadai play that I actually think can be super sexy in small quantities early on in the game.
Yeah, it would be interesting to see Magadai, although it is questionable against the English. I think the big question mark is whether Legolas wants to go for any kind of fishing. Against the Mongols, it feels risky. Then again, it depends on how aggressive Sassy wants to approach this. If he feels like, okay, I don't want to play aggressive against the English in Dark Age, because what if my opponent isn't going for a dock? Would I invest into a barracks and towers if I can only do damage back at home, if any? So there might be some level of intrigue in going for a dock for Legolas. And part of the reason why I love English on these hybrid maps is because civilizations that have swift farm transitions can actually work pretty well on such maps because you have a nice fishing eco, and when that starts running dry, your transition into a farming eco is much more streamlined. So part of the reason why English was popular on Holy Island as well is because of this.
So my kind of like outlook on this matchup is, I mentioned it in the pregame that I think that water is a little bit of a bait. Like rushing towards it can actually destroy you in a lot of matchups. And this is an interesting back and forth example. So, for example, when you think about the Mongols, like historically, they've been the ultra aggressives with the early racks into the spearmen. You don't want to do that against the English because the aforementioned lombos that are going to come out anyway. On top of that, if you do make that play, an English player can come in with men-at-arms spam of their own. And if you don't commit enough spearmen early on, they might even defend against you with the short bows of their villagers. So I actually think this is one of those weird matchups where the Mongols don't actually have the early aggression. If someone's going to make a Dark Age play aggressively, it's going to have to be the English. But given the way that Legolas played that last game, I'm not sure he's going to opt for it.
Yeah, this is why I feel Legolas, because he probably isn't expecting Sassy to play a very aggressive Dark Age play, maybe he could think about a dock. It's going to be interesting to see. Or he could also try playing aggressive himself with men-at-arms. Let's take a look at game number 2, though. It is match point for Legolas. He is the underdog in this matchup, and we're going to have him at the south with the English in blue, and to the north, it is going to be Sassy with the Mongols in red.
I'm curious to actually see what kind of opening he goes for. He mentioned a few options for Legolas that you could try to be the aggressor. I just don't think it suits his playstyle, but given I'm seeing him on the wood, he's going to correct me. He's going to prove me wrong. I think this is actually going to be a Rax opening, and he'll probably look to push 2 men-at-arms. Now, the problem with this play against the Mongols specifically is compared to any other Civ, it's probably the biggest gamble because of the way that they can move their town center, right? Like, when you build early men-at-arms, you don't want to be diving TC. You want to be like poking at a gold vein that's out of range. When we look at the base of SES, we can see someone that's completely protected. His gold, his wood, all of it is safe. So any men-at-arms play won't find value.
You're saying that, but look at that oval placement. That's not on the closer stone. It's all the way out to the right.
But he doesn't want it. Like, so it turns out Legolas was just doing the straggler tree to open up with the dock. It's kind of surprising, actually. I felt like he probably could have got a lumber camp. Did he do lumber? He done lumber camp as well. Okay.
Yeah.
Sure.
I think he just wanted to accelerate his dock timing by a couple of seconds by going for the straggler tree at the beginning. And at the end of the day, he's going to play with the dock, and look at the response from Sassy. This was scouted. There was a scouting falcon on the wood line of Legolas. So Sassy saw that Legolas has so many lumberjacks, which is a clear indication that you have a dock. Response is immediate, and it is going to be horsemen.
Yeah, and the tough part is because you didn't go for the men-at-arms, now you don't have any protection, right? And like the one upside is Legolas pulled 2 villages, which was a little bit overzealous. I think one could have cut it. But by having 2 there, he should be able to quickly wall himself in. The problem is whether he's going to have the foresight to do so. Right? We have God vision. We know what's coming. If we check where Legolas' scouting vision is, I don't think he's actually snooped this one out.
Yeah, I think he spotted the OVO at the beginning, didn't see any production buildings, and now he feels content that there's no aggression coming. He's only playing with 1 scout, just brought the sheep back home. I would be surprised if he was expecting horsemen at this point. And even if he does, it's not like you can make Spearman in Dark Age with the English, so defending that dock in Dark Age would be challenging against the horsemen.
And I actually don't think that Sassy's position is even weak from like an eco perspective. Like he actually has a TC fairly close to the deer stack on the left side of his base, so you can easily just gather there if he runs out of sheep. Like this is all an aggression from SAS potential, and he still doesn't have to put a ceiling on himself. He can actually outlast Legolas with these openings.
For sure, and whatever is left from these horsemen that goes into Feudal Age is also going to be useful against the longbows. So the transition for Sassy into Feudal Age is going to be pretty clean, because, as you said, his eco is still in a decent position, and he's going to have the horsemen available to deal with the longbows. There comes the push. Villager will get pushed back for the time being, but that's -2 out there for Legolas.
Yeah, like, there's no way to stop this, right? And also, you're not going to have a counter anytime soon because A, you didn't build into her racks, so you can be out of position anyway, and you now have no villagers to do so. B, you built 4 fishing boats. This is not a fast feudal timing. Instead, he's going to lose the dock. Maybe he gets his tech up out of it, but he's definitely not going to return the investment value. At which stage, SAS is going to have food gathering of his own. his tech up timing is probably going to be more competitive, so he'll be able to get archer ships out to defend, and he'll still have horsemen that can intercept you in the mid-map.
Now, I'm actually curious how the eco distribution is now looking like for Legolas, because he's about to lose his fishing eco. He's only at 230 food per minute, or 230 food in the bank. Is he gonna have enough for Feudal Age? Yeah, look at that. He still has a lot of lumberjacks, but has to start sending villagers on sheep, because just purely with fishing, he might not have enough time to get the food he needs for Feudal.
I mean, this is legit overkill on wood, unless your intent is to go into Iraqs. I think he's, like, overbearing himself there. As it stands, like, he's giving too much info away, and nothing's getting given in return, right? Like, this is the risk of what Legolas's build was. It's why I prefer something like the Men-at-Arms opening, or even just not doing it at all. Because when you rush to the fish over here, I stand by it. Every day of the week I'll say it. Golden Heights fishing is a bait. Whoever does it first, 90% of the time comes out worse because there's enough time to react to your play. It takes too long to get there.
This is crazy. Legolas tried to sneak out docks 2 times. Once the villager was spotted by the Khan, had to send it back home. Now this villager gets spotted by the horseman, also being trailed by the wolf. And that's the reason why Legolas kept so many lumberjacks out there. He was hoping that he can get back on the water with a sneaky dock, and he wanted to keep that wood in the bank so he can make some combat ships. Villagers get intercepted, that water is gonna be cleaned up, and now it's gonna be challenging for him to work with food in the long run because he only has a handful of sheep to work with.
That's 3 villages so far. 3 villages down already, and we haven't even hit Feudal Age. Now, the upside for him is that SAS didn't send the rest of the horsemen there. So he might get an archer ship out before the dock dies, but he won't stop the horsemen before it's set on fire. So this is still going to be a loss for Legolas.
Yeah, it's a gigantic loss for Legolas. And don't forget, there is bounty associated with burning down the dock. So Sassy is also getting rewarded for that push. And look at what he's doing. He's going Silver Tree here. So, especially considering that Legolas is slowed down, especially considering that he's going to have a slow-moving army with the longbows, Sassy will be able to get away with some very strong trade here.
Well, the biggest reason why you go Silver Tree, I think actually, like, loads of people going Silver Tree, it's great, I get it, trade amazing, whoop, whoop, get more horses. But to the point of horses, the reason why you go Silver Tree here is because actually Deerstone has no intricate value when you're going mass horsemen. Like, it's nice to speed up your villages, sure, but I think SAS's goal is probably to play cavalry and try to hop skip into Castle Age. He might feel like this game should be over before he even needs to reach that point, and that Legolas should kind of like give up quite quickly. But even if he has to go that deep, as I mentioned, SS's position is good for a tech up ahead of Legolas. Legolas, on the other hand, needs to play a super turtly defensive comp, and he's going to need a lot of troops to do it.
Yeah, for sure. Right now, he's going for a combination of spearmen and archers. On the other side, Sassy only has a handful of horsemen to work with. And as you said, Legolas kind of likes that defensive play style. We're going to see some of that as he walls off the left side. I kind of like that. When your army is so slow, you want to condense the playing field, and that's exactly what he's doing. And once again, he's going to try to get back on water. He feels a little desperate for that water, but as you said, it's a bit of a bait.
Oh god, this gets actually worse. This gets so much worse, because SAS, his scouting vision, he might see the wood line on the left side. Okay, luckily for Legolas, it looks like it was just out of range. I mean, still losing more villages like this. To your point, I agree. Like, Legolas, like, his playstyle is full turtle. Like, you can tell that he's protecting the One Ring in there, right? Because he just won't come out. And this plays to SS in many ways and many layers. He'll be able to go for a fast castle timing. He'll be able to get his trade online. He can go for relics if he wants. He's still going to have fishing. Like, the options just continue to expand.
And look at this. He's got arrow slits on that tower. Legolas is trying to take back the riverfront, but it's not going to happen. It's only a handful of spearmen. They'll get picked off by the tower before the horsemen arrive, and this tower will stay, this army will likely get cleaned up, and new villagers could once again be intercepted.
Okay. Yeah, but he did build a dock up. He did get some sort of defense here. That second dock, unlikely to succeed, even with 2 villages, because the archer ship is here. The horseman can easily intercept, so it should be, once again, a flop of a few English villagers. Who cares, right? There's plenty of them to go around. Not at this rate, because that's going to be the 7th villager that Legolas has lost only 8.5 minutes into the game.
That's crazy. We're talking about a 50% deficit when it comes to the villager count. It's 34 against just 23 out there. And even if you destroy the fishing eco of Sassy, it becomes irrelevant to a certain extent because we're depleting those deep fish deposits. And Sassy, he could work on trade, he's gonna have pastures, and as you said, he could even flirt with the idea of Castle Age at this point.
Well, that was a bit odd from SAS throwing away the horseman like that, but overall I still put him ahead because he's already got his naval comp, right? He's got a Springwood, he's got an archer ship. So now Legolas, look at the desperation, he has to go for a demo ship play. You don't want to have to do a demo ship play before your opponent has at least 2 Springwoods. Feels even worse when you know he already has an archer ship to counter. See if he actually counts quick enough. He remembered to move away, and that's all that matters. We'll dodge the bullet, and that's a heavy hit, right? Like, yeah, you're playing the English, so it's not 160, you get a 10% discount. That's still a lot of resources for nothing.
Yeah, and you have to invest into the water to keep your fishing eco alive, but the fishing eco is idle. In fact, you see, now he's bailing on the water with no hope of saving those fishing ships. And while this was happening, Sass's fishing eco was untouched. It was naval combat, but his fishing eco was working, unlike the one from Legolas. So once again, the resource income was just substantially better. I don't know, I feel like this game is just in the hands of Sassy right now. You look at the bottom left, almost triple the army value destroyed for Sassy. No momentum for Legolas, a feeble economy. What is he gonna do in this situation?
He could always go game 3. That's an option. Because remember, Legolas did take game 1, but he's going to want to fight this tooth and nail. You know, this is sadly one of the oppressive elements of English gameplay. It's oppressive in a non-active way, and that until you've actually killed them, Lidakor, the game is never really over. They can always just sit on their ass and wait for imperialism to come around, right? And that's why SAS is going to want to have to, like, you know, turn up the tempo. He's going to have to hop, skip, and jump towards a victory. If he just goes back and kind of starts to boom up, there's still a world in which the English are half together 20 minutes from now.
Yeah, for sure. This is going to be a cleanup here. And right now, Legolas is sitting at a rather underwhelming 29 pop. Just steps out.
I don't blame him, right? Like, there's like a small % chance. Some players will try to play that out, but Legolas understands that, like, this will be an uphill battle. He doesn't have a clue what SS is doing behind this. I imagine in Legolas's mind, he's like, SS is probably a minute away from Castle Age, and I'm nowhere near. So doesn't waste any time, doesn't hang around, calls GG. That does mean we are going to be getting a third game here between SAS and Legolas, though. And after that first one, I felt like it could go either way, but after what I just saw now, unless Legolas turns into a completely different person, like Galadriel, I'm not sure how he comes back.
Well, at least it is going to be on his home map, so that's an advantage to consider for Legolas. But as you said, this was a very convincing game from Sassy, and a concerning one to look back at for Legolas. I'm curious to see how he's going to approach Holy Island, especially because when it comes to the playstyle that you have, Holy Island is somewhat reminiscent to Golden Heights when it comes to balancing your investments on land and water, but this time around, civilizations will be vastly different. We got the HRA versus the Abbasids.
What? Oh, I was about to say it's so much worse for Legolas because actually he doesn't have English and SAS does. But
interesting.
Sassy didn't pick English. The only reason I can think you do this is Sassy is like, Sassy does play a lot of HRE from what I can recall. But the other thought process is like, you can pick English, but your opponent still has French. And French is probably the one civ that does quite well against English from Holy Island. So it might be kind of like this laid cocktail of SAS kind of like outthinking himself in combination with him wanting to play comfort. But Legolas coming in with the Abbasids is a more surprising one. Like, we have occasionally seen the HRE in Holy Island, and it's a competent civ, right? With the increased gathering rates on a fat wood line, you can accelerate your naval production quite phenomenally. But the Abbasids, unless you want to make some sort of aggro dock drop so that you can get emplacements, I'm not quite clear what Legolas's plan is here.
Yeah, this is an interesting approach, especially because so far what we have seen from Legolas is that he likes to turtle back. So when you look at Abbasids from him, unless he drastically changes his playstyle, this would be an eco-focused boom-like approach. It can work. An Abbasid efficient boom is actually more... I'm not going to say more better because that sounds stupid.
More better sounds smart. Eh?
Yeah. Like, an Abbasid boom can work well against the fishing-based approach. The reason why that's concerning is because if there's a civ that matches up well against that, that's probably HRE. You can rush castle, pick up relics, cap sacred sites, and then by the time the Abbasids reach castle age, you could have men-at-arms on the field, you could have knights on the field. So I don't think that sitting back here for Abbasids would work well for Legolas.
Yeah, that's the tough part, right? Like, what's your plan here? Because even if you now kind of like hop into water, you're delaying your aggro timings again. So I feel like you're in a situation where if you're going to play water, you need to be confident that you can beat the HRE player on water. I don't think you can early on, right? It's a 40% gathering speed buffer the moment that Archon Chapel drops on everyone involved. Like, maybe it's a little bit better for Legolas if Sassy gets a Ford Gold spawn away from the wood lines and thus can't get an optimal Archon. But I'm recall it now, like if that wood line and that gold line are anywhere near each other for the HRE player, this should just be a wash on paper at least. You know, outside of SAS microing or something, which in fairness, it's got to be said, like both players have had their slip ups in this series so far, which is why, despite what I'm saying, don't be all doom and gloom if you're a Legolas fan. You know, there's still a world in which it's possible.
Indeed. Before we jump into the final game of this set, the decider game between Sassy and Legolas, big shout out goes to the Muslim for dropping off the raid, as well as all the people that have subbed and followed during the previous game. We have crossed the 100 sub goal that we had for today, 167 already. So thank you so much, everybody, for the support. And once again, thank you, the Muslim, for the raid. Welcome, everybody, from your stream.
And you know, like while we're before we get into the game, we have to get more serious, Lidakor. Like, is it me or is that 167 number very close to a really good number? Like 1 or 2 subs out from a really good number. You know, it'd be
168, you mean?
Yeah. Maybe if you keep counting, there might be another one after that. We'll have to see if it gets there by the time we return, though, because I think we're about ready to get underway. For those just tuning in, we have got a series on our hands. Game 1, Legolas manages to turtle his way through to Plowtown Victory and Canal. Game 2, SAS does not wait about. He slam dunks to the Mongols. And when we hop into Game 3, on Holy Island, we're going to be treated to a perplexing civ choice on both sides. Just have to see which one fares better.
Indeed, on the right side, it is Sassy with the red Holy Roman Empire. Left side, somewhat curious pick over here from Legolas. He's going to play with the Abbasids in blue, and looks like it is just going to be a standard dog start for both players in here. Now, I could catch Sassy picking up a bunch of sheep close to his base. How is the situation looking for Legolas, though? Because that's going to be a big factor over here, especially against the HRE.
I think you both should get a decent amount of sheep, right? There's just so many on this map. Even after I think there was some alterations made after everyone was like, "There's too many sheep." Okay, Adney clearly got sung "Mary Has a Little Lamb" way too much as a child. But even after those alterations, you still end up with a lot of sheep. Reason why this could be a very big deal, I think, for the SAS and the HRE is like, if you see an opportunity where you could actually fast castle, you could actually divert some of your woodworkers onto the sheep to just accelerate, right? Because I think that's another unlock, is if you see an opportunity to just like hop into castle age half a minute quicker by doing that, that gets you into a potential Burgrave rush or Knight territory, at which stage Legolas should, in theory, be at a disadvantage, at least for the first 15 to 20 minutes of this matchup.
Yeah, for sure. If you ever need to really buff your food income with a prelate, that sheep is going to come in handy, or it could come in handy if Sassy had a lot of them, but right now he only has 6 sheep, and on the other side, holy moly, look at that. It's like, at this point, you could say he's an Englishman with that many sheep trailing him. That's crazy. Well, and
at this
little
point,
left for Sassy.
At this point, like what you're seeing from Sassy is like, this is a drunk person looking for a doner kebab store in like, I don't know, Asia. I don't think they actually have many kebabs there. Meanwhile, in the other base is like looking for a kebab shop in England. Like, you can find them literally on every corner at that stage. It's actually crazy how many you get on these maps. I mean, Adney 100% is a wool fan. I can tell. I feel like every single Adney map has oh lordy amounts of sheep.
Yeah, it was funny just listening to you trying to find the proper word to describe the amount of sheep that's on Andy's maps. I don't know. I mean, humongous?
I was
gigantic? Infinite?
I was not going to use the word holy, okay? I know he wanted me to use that word because it's all he ever says, but I was staying away from that. Actually, you know what it is? You know what the word is for the amount of sheep on these maps? It's mind-boggling. There you go. All right, I'm here a week. Thank you very much. But let's focus on these openings locks. You mentioned they're both going to be going in for the docks. Looking at shoreline, looking at deep water fish rather, like they seem similar. I think there's a slight edge for SAS, and he's already gone for a secondary dock. This is something cool you can do with the HRE because you just get such an influx of wood compared to other civs.
Yeah, that's a big thing here. That's the preload buff. On the other side, naturally, you could afford a second dock with the Abyssids because of the discount, but you can't afford the production right at the beginning. So that's the only reason why, for the time being, Legolas is only going to be operating with one dock. And this, in theory, could give an edge economically to Sassy. With the preload buff plus the extra fishing ships, for the time being, the eco counts are dead even, though.
And hear me out, right? Because, like, you know, we're used to seeing certain English shenanigans around short bows, around cheaper naval, maybe a few men-at-arms. Yeah, when Feudal Age unlocks, there's a civ in this game that actually has that men-at-arms option. I'm not saying he's going to take it, but 100%, if Holy Roman Empire does start pushing out men-at-arms in Feudal, there's no way Legolas expects it.
I wonder why. At this point? He's like, why on earth would you expect HRE men-at-arms in Feudal?
I mean, like, just, okay, hear me out. Like, you build like 3 or 4 of them, and you just keep torching the docks, and they're moving away. Where, like, because here's the logic, right? Like, let's say you just want to fish and chill, and Legolas starts pushing you with archer ships. And you're like, oh, this is annoying. Build 4 men-at-arms and start torching the dock. And every time he goes back to try and kill the men-at-arms, you just walk them inland. And then he's just wasted time with his navy. He doesn't do anything.
I mean, that's a fair point.
It's actually annoyingly smart, right? Like, it's so annoying.
If only the Abyssids have a decent Feudal Age unit when it comes to armor-piercing power, the Camel Archers could be a great response to that. So that's part of the reason why I'm not super impressed about the potential of those men-at-arms in Feudal Age. You could respond to that with Camel Archers, so could be an idea for Sassy to consider, but I don't think it would be a great one.
But hear me out, that's a 240 resources unit. So, like, even if you just build 2 of them, let's say I stop at 4 men-at-arms, like, it's an equal exchange, but, like, once again, I feel better about it because I'm HRE, and haha, good luck getting more eco than HRE.
Well,
wait, is Legolas actually going for a TC boom on? Okay.
Well, you just said it. Good luck trying to get more eco than the HRE. That's the plan. Now, I think Sassy saw this with the scout passing by, and I think this is the go sign for him for a fast castle. Because one of the ways that you could easily offset the villager discrepancy is just by going castle, start picking up relics, capture sacred sites. That would be the way to go for Sassy, I feel.
But like, on top of that, no, like, Lidakor, he has 3 docks and he's building TCs. It's got to be in placements, right? Thank God it's in placements. Oh, man. I was getting worried. I was like, we're going to have a quick game if there's a TCs and 3 docks, right? Because that's like hard to maintain. This makes a bit more sense. Like, he wants to get the emplacements to offset the early aggression. But the problem you have...
He's still mining stone.
He's only upgraded 1 emplacement, right? So,
yep.
There's no way. Like,
there's a second TC coming, KP.
There's no way.
You can't get away from this.
Come on, there's no way, right? Let's see. He's got another emplacement. It's fine. See, it's fine. I told you. There's no way.
He's banking wood. He's going for it. I know it.
So, like, I think he has to now because, like, if you were going to just build emplacements on docks and crawl along the shores, why didn't you go for Culture Wing instead to get the discount, right? Because he went fresh food stuffs. But, like, man, this is tough. Like, I don't like it because I think SAS hasn't built enough military on the water for this to have been a worthwhile investment. Like, if you're SAS, do you not just rush castle now?
Yeah, that's a fair point. And it also delays the second town center, which is now dropped on the right side. I agree with you. I feel like it was a bit of an overinvestment into those emplacements. What? If he skipped the second one, he could have gotten that second TC a little faster. Placement is nice, but I'm concerned about this. If this gets scouted, this is a prime target for a Burgrave Man-at-Arms rush. That's an expansion TC. It's not difficult to destroy for an HRE player with the Burgrave rush.
Yeah, but the weird part is SAS was scouting the dockside the entire time. He hasn't even looked for this. He just checked the stone, and now he should be like, wait, no. No. No! He gets the bad news.
Yeah.
It's so late, you can't stop it now.
Yeah, he can't stop this. He's also going to spot that it's going to be on plenty of food. So it's actually a good fallback option for Legolas should his fishing eco be destroyed. Now, look at the posturing from Sassy on the water. He's not directly pressuring the fishing ships. He can't really push into that. Instead, he's just pushing away those fishing ships from the deep fish. There is basically a blockade around those docks with 2 hulks, 2 galleys as well. He won't let his opponent get deep fish, but he's going to let him get the shore fish.
So, like, yeah, the problem you have though, if you SAS, is like, it's good that you've managed to budget your resources on naval to like block out some value. I agree, it helps. But you've allowed this second TC to go up.
Yep.
And you've built double stables. I think it was double stables, in fact, to try and stop this. I hope SAS is just targeting Castle Age now. Because I think if he builds more into this aggro, it's not going to work. Like, you don't have access to the units to break the back of the Abbasids.
Yeah, this is actually concerning for him. As you said, sure thing, Legolas can't access the deep fish, so his fishing economy is way less efficient. Plus, Sassy has the Prelate. On the other hand, Legolas is a second TC to work with, and at the end of the day, at least those fishing ships are working, and Sassy invested into 4 combat vessels, make it 5, make it 6 actually already.
Oof, good lord.
And by the time he gets value for them, it might be too late.
I mean, I think he's just doing this out of paranoia to protect his own economy, but like he doesn't need to. There's nothing to threaten him. Like Legolas is building a few ships now, but you're kind of jumping the gun on keeping mass. And every time you do this, you're keeping yourself further away from Castle Age, which should be your goal now. Like there's no way you want to play prolonged feudal against the Abbasids when they've set up 2 TCs like this.
For sure. Now, quite frankly, Sassy still has the eco lead, and that's part of the reason why he should still feel okay. Because don't forget, he's been bumping out fishing ships from 3 docks. For the time being, it's fine. Once he depletes the deep fish, it gets a lot more concerning because suddenly he's gonna have to make a very sharp farm transition. He barely has any sheep to work with, don't forget that. So, for the time being, it's fine. When the deep fish is gone, his eco is going to plummet.
Demo ships moving in. 3 of them should make it through. 1 archer ship's not going to cut it, so Legolas likely to take heavy casualties here. Try to split them off, but that should be a double whammy. SAS will get rid of 2 of the Springles. That'll keep momentum on his side. Doubling the Springle count, actually, of what Legolas has, but still not as free of situations here, right? A heavy investment, that many demos. And you still have got this shoreline fishing going on. With emplacements there, unless you can get some sort of land mass, there's no way you're going to stop Legolas from at least getting something here.
Yeah, as you said, extended feudal age is something that will eventually be good for the Abbasids, but it has to be an extended feudal. Behind this, Sassy is able to start banking up resources. He could be on his way to Castle Age in about a minute, and he has 8 hawks on the field, so he could easily push the water and simultaneously still work his way towards Castle Age. Question is, what is Legolas gonna do? He is still far away from Castle Age and really yet to capitalize on that second expansion town center, especially considering that he keeps losing villagers to these little raids.
Yeah, SAS is being a cheeky get here. Not pulling away quick enough as the spearmen do arrive, but it looks like he's trying to distract. We'll move in on the naval side. Lack of demo ships means Legolas doesn't have an answer. Has got 1 coming out soon, but 1 is not going to actually brutalize this entire fleet unless SES is not paying attention. The emplacements, however, are a different matter. Continuing to make this a hard bank to breach.
Yeah. At some point, he's going to commit. He just wants to destroy the fishing geek, or at least what's left of it. Demo ship now coming in here. That's gonna be a lovely hit. Oh, this was a much-needed hit out there for Legolas.
And all of a sudden, SAS doesn't have water control again. So what does he have to do? He now has to reinvest. That's once again going to slow down his Castle Age timing. Like, the brutal reality of this situation is he's been so obsessed with preventing Legolas from fishing, and you have to question mark why. If we check what Legolas has been doing here, with the amount of docks he built, there's not really that many shoreline fish. And shoreline fish aren't that phenomenal of gathering rate anyway. So if you build enough to just keep Legolas boxed in without committing, surely that's just you winning.
Yeah, he has way better resource income, and that's going to show in the form of Castle Age transition. He needs to make it happen. He's depleting his own deep fish, and when that happens, he's gonna have to make a transition to farming. That's gonna take some time. He's going to make it to Castle Age before that, though, and I think that fishing eco will fuel that Burgrave rush to absolute madness. So this is what gets concerning for Legolas.
But he is on the timer, Lidakor. Remember, like, he's been doing those deep water fishes for a while, right? Like, we checked some of them. I don't think there's that much left. So he can maybe, if he can get himself up to like 30 men at arms, I feel good about this. I feel good about his timing. Because actually Legolas has a very big issue with eco balance here. Look at his income,
Absolutely.
look at the wood. He's not actually got much food or gold. So tech up is not an option for the Abbassids for at least probably 3 more minutes.
Yeah, it's gonna be a slow deck up for him. He's walling this off, but the key thing here is that Sassy has enough deep fish left to have a good momentum with the men-at-arms. As you said, he's on a timer, but that timer is still far from being done. And now he can push the water. Burgrave is gonna be in, and remember that expansion town center, it's not like it's very well defended.
No, I like this more from SAS. Instead of coming in the center where he's hit by all the emplacements, he pokes at the side, right? He forces, frustrates just enough to keep Legolas on the defensive and continue to invest on the naval. Well, now we end up in a situation where with the tech up being revealed, Legolas needs to get walls up. But the way I always describe walls as a counter to men-at-arms is it's like building a dam with no flow-through point, right? It will hold back the water for a while. But before you know it, instead of dealing with some leaky boots from a slight flooding, you and your house are being washed about 9 miles downriver.
Naval engagement out here. Legolas feels like he needs to go, but this feels insufficient. Most of his fleet is actually archer ships. Just 4 Baglas out there against many Hawks galleys also on the field, and he's gonna get forced back rather easily here. Demo, though, nice little hit, but insufficient.
He hit the flank when he had access to the full entry, and now Legolas, in return, doesn't pay attention. Demo ships will wipe his ass out. Barely anything left of the fleet. And remember, if this turns into a net zero on both sides, SAS is still happy. He just wants to protect the fishing to enable the men-at-arms spam.
Yeah, now the man-at-arms spam is coming in. Castle Age upgrade is in. Range defense in. Fleet is gone for Legolas. He's got the food per minute to get him to Castle Age or start that progress in about a minute, but he simply doesn't have a minute. Even if he did, it's going to take a flat 145 for him to reach Castle Age and start doing anything. He's going to try to combat this with camel archers now, but those are pricey units, and they take very long to train. He won't have sufficient numbers to counter this flood.
You say that, but SAS hasn't been fast, right? He's only up to 10 men at arms, and there's a lot of archery ranges. I am actually worried that SAS didn't have the eco to flood men at arms like he should at this stage.
He's low on gold. He was very low on gold for a while.
I'm worried for it. Like, honestly, he's farm transitioning as well. This is going to slow down his timing. SAS might be stuck in a situation where he actually has to target Imperial Age instead.
Yeah, we talked about this. He's on a timer. And the moment the deep fish is gone, the momentum is going to disappear, and that's going to buy a lot of time for Legolas. And as you said, it's a slow build-up of men-at-arms. It's only 8, and right now there's not a single one in queue. He himself is somewhat distracted by the naval combat or just microing those men-at-arms, and his production isn't consistent. It's not really a flood rather than a trickle at this point.
No, not even a trickle, it's just a tickle, right? And the only upside is Legolas doesn't seem to be microing the camel archers constantly, so they are still fuel age units, quite pricey, not that tanky. If you look away and you're not paying attention, these men-at-arms can kill them. But that's a big if. And there's not many men-at-arms to do the killing. In fact, SAS has switched up entirely. He went for a Burgrave build, and now he's switching into Knights, and now they wrap around with the demos! Heavy hit into the fleet. SAS loses everything. And if he does not refurbish his shorelines with naval vessels, he could lose everything.
That was a lovely pinch. He waited and the timing was perfect. It was a pinch with 2 downwards from the north, 1 from the south. And don't forget, Sassy is distracted. He's making a farm transition. He's microing Knights, keeping his production going. He wasn't able to pay attention to everything, loses his fleet. And now look at the overall population. Look at the eco. Eco almost dead even. Army count actually better for Legolas. And suddenly there is no pressure on him. If there is ever a moment for him to go to Castle, it is right now.
Yeah, and SAS on the other side doesn't have many options, right? The Night Mass doesn't work when you have to keep investing across into the water again to replace what is lost. That's slowing him down. Farm transition isn't going to be quick either. This game, despite what we just saw in the last one, is actually a repeat of the first. You know, not the cleanest of affairs, could look a bit sloppy, but it's going the distance. And when we talk about the distance, you cannot discount the powerhouse that is the Abbassids in the late game. If we reach that point, this game could be fully in Legolas's control. And considering that he has almost got 15 camel archers, if he takes for a Castle Age timing now, I don't know what SAS feels to counter this.
Yeah, and if you look at the stats on the ladder or even in tournaments, and check the win ratio, the win percentage of the Abyssids as a function of game time, you will see that it increases drastically beyond minute 20. That's where they come online, that's where they hit Castle Age, and that's gonna be Legolas' Castle Age timing, and he already has a strong standing army. 15 Camel Archers to pick off Prelates with, and he's gonna be on his way to Castle Age.
Yeah, he needs to be careful not to throw away the army, though. These men-at-arms are deceptively fast, right? With the charge plus the marching drills, they can actually gap close at a reasonable pace. So, gotta kind of skirt it. Also, keep in mind that SAS only ever picked up one relic, right?
Yep.
His eco isn't looking booming. It's a Burgrave build as well, so you're not getting much out of that relic. Like, don't be deceived, folks. The longer this game goes on, it's not just that kind of casual over time. HRE gets weaker unless they stay ahead. It's much worse than that when you go for a Burgrave build and it falls flat like this. And now, look at the naval side. Despite the dominance consistently from SAS, for the first time in the game, he is now being outnumbered there as well.
Yeah, now there's a price to pay here for Legolas. He was focusing on the water, lost a lot of Camel Archers. He lost like 10 of them under that tower. At least he's on the way to Castle Age though, taking some reasonable engagements on the water. Demo ship could make the connection. For the time being, he's gonna have to fall back. On land, it's an even Steven. Losses are massive on both sides. Legolas has lost most of his Camel Archers.
Demo ships haven't really revealed themselves, so Legolas can try to ambush here. He's waiting for the moment SAS is not really paying attention to try and go in with that triple demo play. I think just gonna stand his ground now. Tech up will be complete in 30 seconds. And yes, most of the Cam Archers got thrown away, but he did actually keep SAS contained for the time being. SAS still in a situation where he's only picked up one of the relics, and now the demos will move in. Heavy damage done. That's pretty much all the Sprill ships gone. The galleys remaining. Once again, SAS in his paranoia will have to rebuild the fleet to defend the fishing.
Exactly, that's the only source of food he's having. And on the other side, you see berries being taken by Legolas. He's got a buffer, and don't forget, at the beginning of the game, Legolas got 20 plus sheep. Sassy only had 6. So Sassy needs that fishing eco. He has to reinvest on water. He can't afford to lose that.
Here's the thought for you. Sassy's actually been losing against spears with men-at-arms. Right? They're feudal age spears, for God's sake.
But they have phalanx, come on.
Yeah, I always say phalanx is like go-to tech, right? And everyone's like, I remember like, it was like, it's all right. It's not like, it's amazing. It's ridiculous because he's doing about the same damage as the men-at-arms in this melee clash. Sure, you need more numbers, but they're cheaper and you've got the eco to push them. Like, there's another reason why this men-at-arms spam has never looked impressive. And now, SAS, what's your counter when someone builds the spearman like that? Oh, I'll have to get Langskek. So, let's talk about that gold again and the choice to go Burgrave instead of Regnitz, because you're not going to have as much gold as you'd hope.
For sure. He's going to have limited gold to work with, and once again, we have to go back to the situation where the food could be limited too, and now Legolas has access to the deep fish. Deep fish that was untouched for most of the game. In about 5 minutes' time, Sassy won't have fish, and Legolas will.
In the meantime, SAS has to keep reinvesting because now it's not just about defending his eco, it's about stopping Legolas. But let's say you just create that kind of like, you know, neutral stance where you just keep attacking and investing in naval. Well, Legolas is still coming out ahead because now he's going to play you at your own game where he's going to fish behind those assaults and build an even bigger lead than he's already building off of this 2TC build that has him up over 20 villages. Or close to 20 villages.
And now look at the momentum for Legolas. He feels that there is blood in the water. There is going to be battering rams coming in. He's going to try and push that gold mine because take a look at the minimap. It's not like Sassy has a lot of gold to work with, so losing that forward position could be fatal.
Oh, I'm getting a resurgence of feelings from game number 1. When Legolas builds a ram, it kills. When Legolas builds a ram, something bad happens for the other side. Now, if I took that kind of power situation and said, 1 ram does a lot for Legolas, he's built 3 of them, Lidakor. This is my measurement of this series. That does mean SAS is about to lose the game because his PC is going to implode.
Speaking of imploding, there's a lot of ships coming in here for Sassy. Legolas doesn't have much to defend here with.
Oh, he has no demos. He has 0 demos, so he's going to lose waterflow. Good timing! Legolas! He gets like half the value that he could have. Final demo ship in though. That should be good enough. Brings them all low. But now, Legolas doesn't have a fleet to finish off. He does, however, have the push in the center with an amassment that outnumbers SAS.
Yeah, there's just so many places to focus at. He wasn't able to focus on his fleet. He's going to lose the battle on the water, but now he's focusing on land, and there is not much left here for Sassy to stop him with. Only a handful of infantry units, towers will fall, production buildings will follow, and at this point, Legolas could easily give up on the water because he could finish this game on land in the next few minutes.
These demo ships are being used at Grandma's reaction speed, right? She's like, what? What happened? She checks in like 5 seconds later, and still he finds value. SAS, now, in peril. He doesn't have a standing army on land. He does get the keep up, but we've seen what Rams can do on the pop. And although they're not that buffed here in the main, they are still a formidable force up against castles, especially if Legolas doubles down on them.
Exactly, and look at the resource bank from Legolas for a moment. He could either reinvest and just go for a massive flood of units here with the resource bank he has, or he could flirt with the idea of Imperial Age and have a massive tech advantage over his opponent. I think at this point he's banking up for Imperial.
I think you're going for the kill. Like, I don't think it's worth waiting around, right? Even actually just drop a full Siege Workshop, get some Trebs possibly, or just more Rams. I think actually more Rams is very affordable for him right now, and then you just spam crossbows. Like, what do you do if you're SAS at that stage? You can't build an army quick enough.
I would also prefer if he just went in, although he feels like he could accomplish both. He's got good momentum here, he's got a decent ball of crossbows, he's destroying infrastructure, and at the same time, he still has a massive resource bank.
And I love that priority on the Siege Workshop. The only thing that counters him now is a Mangonel play. So SAS is going to have to look elsewhere for that. Rams now moving into the castle. The dive's going to come out. Remember, this is only the front wave. Legolas has a second one. Congo lining across the map as we speak. Meanwhile, this is everything that SAS has to defend with.
Exactly. And there's a lot of crossbows. They are willing to stand underneath the castle. No repairs coming in here. Castle already down to 50% HP. Everything that Sassy has is being sent in here. Spearmen just flooded into the crossbows, but the keep could fall in a moment. E-repairs, though, still available. Is he gonna pop it, though? Is he focusing on this battle? Okay, he's going to.
It's not going to save it outright, though. Like, you need an army to defend with. The problem is you're just building spearmen into crossbows, and you know, I mentioned that Legolas has a Congo line going across the battlefield. SAS has a Congo line of death, right? It's like save a hero syndrome. It's like, oh no, my comrade's almost dead. Let me go help him. Now you're dead as well. I don't think I've seen SAS build more than like 12 military units on land for the last minute.
Exactly. He doesn't really have the production. His eco is technically still there, but it's just a lack of units on the playing field right now. Still trying to push the water, but at this point, what for? Keep is gonna be gone. Production exposed. You really wonder if there's a way back here for Sassy.
Legolas didn't even move the ram straight away. He's like, so you're gonna call it? Maybe you wanna give? No, okay. Well, we can keep going then. That's fine by me. I got plenty of resources to work with here. More crossbows on the way. Now SAS still lacking any sort of Mangonel play to counter that. He's gonna get a little bit of breathing room, but that's only because Legolas has decided to just carve more of the map up. You can see the way he's walling.
Yep.
He's actually gonna get the vast quantity of resources in the center.
He will. It's gonna be trench warfare. It's gonna be impossible or next to impossible for Sassy to swiftly raid and do some eco damage, even if he had any knights. Right now, he just has 2 of them in the queue. And also, Legolas is banking up stone for a keep. I feel like this is the moment where he's going to keep drop right in front of the base of Sassy and finish this game. It's over.
Oh.
It's done.
I can't tell if Legolas is just like a sick puppy or just very paranoid. Like, he likes to take his time getting to this late game. There was a little bit of hesitation now, the recommitment, and you know, that castle drop, I think he cancels it. I think you go deeper. Yeah. I think we see a repeat of the castle at the end of game 1 to just tell SAS how over this is.
Actually, he could just keep that keep. There's right next to that a stone. He could just mine a little bit more, have a forward position, and then double down on that. But yeah, look at that. Cancel comes in. Even more aggressive keep being placed.
You finish this the way you started it. SAS needs to know that no matter what happened in between, it's not about how it was going, it's about how it ends. And this game feels moments away from ending. SAS completely outnumbered militarily. Eco in shambles in comparison to what Legolas is able to achieve. And although E-repairs can maybe delay this, nothing will stop the inevitable tide of the Abbasid Swarm.
Yeah, at this point he's getting some good Mangonel hits, but it's too little too late. Landmarks falling, eco is being flooded, and there's a keeper right next to your town center being placed. What are you gonna do about it?
So here's the thing about SS's defensive keep. all your landmarks are actually ahead of us. So, he doesn't need to care about it. I mean,
Yeah, exactly.
And what are you protecting back here, right? There's no gold back here. The wood is kind of like a bit too wide to be defended. I mean, I appreciate SES not giving up, but sometimes you got to call it when it's called. I think he's just going to have to reflect and look forward. Of course, this isn't the last chance for SES to qualify. Remember that tomorrow we've got the secondary qualifiers. But bar a miracle, or by miracle I mean technical issues of Legolas tripping or his mum like hoovering and accidentally unplugging the PC, I just don't see how he loses this.
Exactly. At this point, momentum is massive. And don't forget, Sassy will run out of fish at some point. He still has some to work with. But when that happens, his eco's gonna be even more so feeble than it is right now. And if those villagers on the right side ever get found, that's minus 15 for him as well.
Cool game, though, from Legolas. I think, reflecting on this, very defensive playstyle. Some civs are going to work well, some maps are going to work well for him. But things like Canal, like we saw earlier, they are a very fragile tool for him to approach. I think SAS, this game, a little bit more scrappy. The first one's definitely the one that's going to kind of nibble on his conscience a little, but you can't hold anything back from the way Legolas played this. Like, the way he kept baiting SAS in, the way he forced him to invest more into Navy instead of getting his burglary rush fully going, and allowing himself to reach this later timing where the Abbasids can reign supreme.
For sure, efficiency was a key factor, not just in this game, but you go back to game number 1, he had really efficient naval engagements, really efficient land engagements as well, when you look at the amount of resources destroyed versus lost. Here, same thing. You remember that one battle when he was able to pinch the entire fleet of his opponent with the demo ships. That kind of efficiency is what's winning this game for him.
SAS, he's built a TC back behind his base. Like, he's trying to recover, but it's kind of a moot factor at this stage. Like, the only reason I think he hasn't called GG just yet is he still has the deep water fish. I think if Legolas really wants him to give up, all he needs to do is like push 1 or 2 naval ships out and start killing the fishing. Once that happens, SAS will admit defeat.
Exactly, Castle is gonna go up on the northern side as well. I would love to see some trebuchets actually from Legolas at this point. Just start picking off that castle. You could probably accomplish the same thing with battering rams, but considering that Sassy has no army to get rid of your trebuchets with, you might as well just start picking off buildings from a distance as well.
I mean, you might as well just end the game, like, by killing this one landmark. The one landmark that's left that has no E-repairs. Like, if I'm SAS, I'm rushing houses up towards my secondary TC so I can E-repair this. Because as soon as it's gone, he's gone with it. Epps in the chat for Sassy. Look forward to seeing what he can try to do tomorrow, as I'm sure he's going to try to qualify for the second time. But big shout out to Legolas, making his debut in Golden League and disqualifies. Looking damn good for it.
Indeed, Sassy's trying everything to keep this alive, and it's gone. It is over. Legolas takes down the last landmark, and with that, wins the set in what was a very much back and forth set. Back and forth first game, rather dominant second game from Sassy, and then this one, once again, very back and forth, both on the land and on the water. In the end, Legolas grinds it out, and he is going to be the one advancing to the next round.
Got to be feeling confident about that. I think for a lot of people, Sassy was expected to make it a decent amount deep, but I think he was one of those people, I'm not going to say an outright shoe-in, but his chances were seen as very high. Right now, you're in the situation where everyone's going to be looking at, oh, who's this Legolas guy? Because we know Sassy, we know he's been practicing with a lot of the pros. He's been featuring on a bunch of people's different streams. How did he get knocked out? So people are going to be reviewing that. I think, like I mentioned, one big takeaway from this is Legolas. Potential weaknesses in his early game. He seems, I think, a lot more confident in this defensive playstyle. I put him with like that kind of recon class of player, right? Where he's actually happy to have his opponent come and just like slam himself against you repetitively and hold. We'll see if that holds up as he makes his way through the rest of this qualifiers. And looking forward to seeing if he actually manages to be one of the... How many players do we have qualifying? I think it's